All right, everybody. So I believe we are live. And if that's the case, go ahead and let me know in the chat if you can hear me and if everything looks and sounds good. That way I know that we're getting started, okay? Obviously, there's a lot to talk about tonight, but I think one of the biggest things that we all know is happening right now is this entire ammunition ban from Russia, right? The new round of sanctions that's being placed on Russia that is causing a lot of the stress, especially in an already strained ammunition shortage. So, that being said, I wanted to kind of give everybody something to think about and some things to discuss tonight about not just the fact that this is going to have implications for lots of other things that aren't related to Russian ammunition specifically, but that it's also going to put us on a path towards more power grab type situations in the future here very soon. So we need to definitely be ahead of this, and we need to be aware of what's coming next. Okay, so all right, I'm looking in the chat here. Everybody's saying looks good, sounds good. That's excellent. I am hoping to get that Red Dawn poster, painting or whatever it is, very soon. So trust me, it's on its way. But I did not realize that I was committing Red Dawn by ordering it because it's clearly coming from somewhere that might be where you'd expect Red Dawn to happen from. So I hopefully will have it in my possession here soon. That being said, and I'm just going to say that more than once apparently tonight. The Russian ammunition ban, it's a big deal, and it's something that we need to be very on top of because especially for people who are in preparedness and, want to practice their Second Amendment rights and want to be able to defend themselves and take care of themselves in a survival situation, there are a lot of applications based on platforms that digest Russian ammunition that are very well liked and popular and for good reason. And one of the best things about the Russian ammunition, especially during the shortage, is that it's maintained a certain level of cost, that it's been affordable to a certain degree. For a long time, I was still picking up Russian ammunition for 50 cents a round, which compared to other things such as 5.56 or 308 or anything else that's out there, 50 cents a round wasn't too bad. And so obviously, if you guys are new to Russian ammunition or even just firearms in general, and you're just here to be prepared and you're wondering about like what's going on out there in the sense of like, why is everybody so worked up about this? Well, the big ammunition that's going to be hit the most obviously is going to be your 7.62 by 39 and your 5.45 by 39. Those are very popular cartridges, very inexpensive, and they run in a lot of highly recommended platforms based around generally the AK-47, but even the SKS. So there's a lot of great applications for them, as well as other firearms that utilize those ammunition, such as AR-15s, as well as certain bolt-action rifles. So there's a lot of application, and a lot of people are going to be pushed into different directions now because of this whole situation. So we're going to talk about that whole scenario because honestly, it's going to affect a lot of things, not just this ammunition. And that's why I wanted to have this live stream conversation with everybody because of how chaotic this whole market's becoming and what's really happening out there. Okay. And it's actually interesting, but the video that comes out tomorrow night is about another, firearms industry related shortage that's on its way that you might not know about. So a lot of stuff is coming up and a lot of things are happening. And it's very telling and very clear why this is all happening. So let's get into the meat and potatoes. Real quick, I do want to say thank you, Black Conservative. I appreciate the super chat. And like I always say, guys, I do appreciate the super chats, but if you feel the need to support me, make sure you're supported first. So make sure you guys have your preps and your gear and everything else that you need before you spend money on somebody like me. Make sure you're spending money on you and your own family. So I do appreciate it, though. I really do. Let's see. Mark Bottom says, what kind of ammo do Chinese rifles shoot? And generally, a lot of it's going to be the same ammo that we're talking about right now. I believe their standard issue cartridge is the 5.45 by 39. I might be wrong. And if I'm wrong about anything in this chat, make sure you let me know in the comments. I'll try to get to you guys and try to talk to you as much as I can, as well as trying to put the information together here for everybody to digest as best they can. Okay, so real quick, what I'm going to do is go ahead. I'm going to share some of the information that's being put out there. And obviously there is certain sources that we're going to talk about because these sources are the ones that are accredited, right? And they're not going to cause us any problems here. As you know, especially being on this platform, there is some issues when it comes to sharing websites or anything like that that can lead you to being able to purchase certain items down the road within that same website or realm. So I have to be careful about, what I share here and what websites we utilize. So these government websites are definitely safe from that, because obviously they don't want us to buy some of the things that we're worried about here. So this is the basic standard declaration that's being put out there. And it's basically saying that an additional round of sanctions has been put together because of the poisoning of Alexei Navalny, which is under the CBW Act, the Chemical and Biological Weapons Control and Warfare Elimination Act of 1991. So they're utilizing this act from over, about 30 years ago exactly, actually, to basically backdoor remove our ability to own certain types of ammunition, or at least have access to affordable ammunition, and be able to utilize something like steel-cased Russian ammo as a way to practice, get out more, and have additional supplies on hand. So basically, they're trying to say that the use of the Novichok nerve agent in August 2020, when they poisoned Alexei Navalny, basically is a violation of the CBW Act, or a violation of the Chemical and Biological Weapons Control situation, where they don't want people utilizing these types of weapons on their own people. And so then they go back and they sanction them. Now, this is not an effective sanction for accomplishing the goal of getting Russia to not do these things in the future. The best thing they utilized this for was to eliminate our ability to access this type of ammunition, and access things that are affordable and easily accessible until now. And if you were to go to different websites around the internet and try to find some of this ammunition, you're going to find out that it all ran out very quickly, and that there's very limited supply and limited availability right now. This all happened 3 days ago, and we're already on track to basically back to the beginning of 2020, where nothing is available and it's extremely expensive, or very limited on what your options are right now. So this is the justification for why they are doing this, why this new sanction came into play, right? And what an easy justification. Oh, they used this thing that we're pretty sure was used, and we know it's illegal in the sense of like the way the world wants things to work. So we're going to utilize the CBW Act to put these sanctions into place and really punish them for what they're doing here. And obviously we see export restrictions on nuclear and missile related goods and technology, blah, blah, blah. Whatever. We all know that that's all highly regulated and probably dealt with in a certain way that's not necessarily legitimate in many ways. But the main thing here is the restrictions on the permanent imports of certain Russian firearms. New and pending permit applications for the permanent importation of firearms and ammunition manufactured or located in Russia will be subject to a policy of denial. And that is where we need to really see where this is all going. Now, I believe, just from what I read, that this lasts for a year and can be revisited at that time and either be canceled or renewed. But at this situation we're all in right now, at this crossroads, we know that this is being done for one reason, and it's to eliminate the ability for people to get ammunition, and it's to eliminate the ability for people to have a reasonable amount of ammunition on hand. That is a big deal, and that's something that they don't want to see anymore. And after all of the buying and the market expenditures going on throughout the last year, they've noticed that a lot of people are buying more than what they're actually using. And especially when a lot of indoor ranges and training facilities weren't even open during the last year, for the amount of ammunition that was purchased, they know that most of it's going away rather than being utilized. So these are the things that they want to stop seeing happen. And we know that this is eventually going to be a big issue here. What's going to happen next? Why is this such a big deal? Well, here's some of the things I want you guys to think about. First and foremost, all of this was telegraphed to us back in March of 2021, where the new administration started figuring out ways that they could attack gun control from the White House and the executive branch, rather than trying to figure out legislation, because there's a lot of roadblocks there, and there's a lot of reasons as to why that legislation is so difficult to pass. And obviously we all know why, but people who want power or are in power want to figure out ways to still get that stuff done without necessarily going through the proper channels. So with that being said, let's talk about this little scenario over here, which, hold on one second as I get my boomer-esque technology into place. All right, and boom. Okay, so here is an article from April 2nd, 2021. And this is how the Biden White House tries to craft gun executive orders that can't be undone. And this is the stuff that they're trying to pull off. And this is not just about limiting ammo. This is about figuring out backdoor ways to limit firearms and ammunition and everything related to it in general. Okay. And basically, they're going to tell us right here in this article that came out months ago that we were all aware of at the time that they're going to be attacking ghost guns, which we've seen in the news lately, those manufacturers being sued by police departments, and they're finding other ways to try to eliminate people's abilities to acquire those, kits. And then let's see, we got to deal with things that are used or made using 3D printers, and as well as on imported guns. Okay. So right here, they said that they were going to do this, but a lot of people heard this back in April, got upset about it. And then 4 months later, here we are, and it's not, news. This is just what's finally happened. And this is one of the things that we have to be very vigilant about. These things don't happen the second we find out about them. They happen months down the road. So that way there's less resistance in the sense that people aren't as upset at that moment. People aren't as on edge. People aren't as alert because they're seeing these things come out. They're digesting it. They're getting used to it and getting back to some sort of like normalcy bias. And then eventually, hey, wait, that thing, we did it right now. And then at that point, where was there any room to actually do anything about it? There wasn't. And that's the whole deal with these executive orders and these executive branch gun control initiatives, is that they aren't necessarily able to be done much about. Okay, so let's see here. I'm trying to see. There's a couple other things here within this article that they were talking about. But basically the whole thing is just about they're trying to get rid of, the ghost guns. They're trying to get rid of imports, and they're trying to get rid of anything that can be 3D printed. So that is a big deal because a lot of these different, initiatives are going to come together to try to eliminate our ability to get what we need or what we want step by step, nail by nail, inch by inch, right? And that is definitely the route that they're taking. And I wanted to show you guys that article to let you know and remind you that back in April, this is exactly what they were already telegraphing. They were already telling us that this was going to happen. So what's going to happen now with this Russian ammo ban? Where are we heading after this? And what's exactly on the table, okay? And real quick, because I want you guys to enjoy yourselves. We're trying to have a good time here. It's Marauder Monday. And honestly, when we're talking about, AKs and SKSs and 7.62 by 39, 5.45 by 39, 7.62 by 54R, and all the good stuff, aren't those like the most ultimate Marauder weapons? Let's be honest here, okay? I don't ever expect to see a Marauder with a Daniel defense, okay? I'm expecting Marauders to have Wassers and to be running around and not even know if their magazines are loaded or not. That's what I'm expecting. So real quick here, we're going to do something something I enjoy. And I'm going to ask you guys in the poll here, what ammunition is going to be affected the most by this, okay? Okay. And then we're going to add some options here because, I have to talk while I do this or else it gets really boring around here. Okay. And just so you guys are aware, there's going to be a lot of other fallout from this because of the fact that people are going to change their minds about certain things that they maybe thought they were going to do. And they're going to change their minds about certain platforms that they thought they were going to operate with. And this is going to be a big deal because a lot of people are going to find out really soon that maybe what they thought originally is going to change because of this whole situation. Okay. I just threw out a few options there. I want you guys to have a good time with it, okay? So here's what's going to happen. And here's something that you guys need to be aware of. Okay. A lot of people are going to see this. And a lot of people, when I say that, what I mean is people who are not passionate about firearms, people who are not firearms aficionados, people who don't necessarily dive into the nitty gritty and the details of the firearms industry or different firearms types, or, maybe people who just don't really have a lot of knowledge about the subject, which is totally fine because honestly, most people don't want to spend their time, learning every little bit and tad about the firearms industry. What they want to do is, get the firearms that they want, use them, train with them, learn how to defend themselves, and then they're good to go. So the problem here is a lot of people are going to see this situation and they're going to say, look, I don't want to deal with not being able to get ammunition. I don't want to deal with not having to find affordable ammunition. And now that this stuff's banned, I got to switch calibers. And we're going to see a lot of people move from AKs and SKSs over to AR-15s. And now that is already a minority. And of course, AR-15s is already a huge market, and that's already the lion's share of what happens here in the United States. But the issue is that a lot of this Russian ammo also made 223 Remington and made a lot of steel-cased versions of 223 or 5.56 by 45 that will also not be there any longer. And the big issue with that is that a lot of these people now are going to be switching platforms or dumping their AKs or getting rid of whatever it is they have that fires those, Russian calibers, and then they're going to switch back to 5.56 or 308 or whatever it might be. And now we're going to have even more people fighting over the same ammunition, more people fighting over the same platforms. And a lot of people are going to do this prematurely because they're just going to feel like it's going to be a problem for them. And they're going to jump ship, basically. And that's a huge issue because the shortage is already a big problem. The strain is there. The supply chain is broken. And now we're going to see a lot of people doing this. And I'm not saying that it's a good idea to do this. What I'm saying is that it's going to happen and that people are going to justify their thought process because, well, they're banning it. It's getting too expensive. It's going to get harder to get. It's already sold out everywhere. I got to get rid of this whole AK dealio. I thought it was a good idea in the past, but you know what? I got to get back to 5.56 or whatever it may be. And next thing we know, we're all fighting over the same ammunition once again. Not to mention the fact that, yes, even more ammo that used to supply, your AR-15s like this 223 or even your AR-10s like the 7.62 by 51 they used to put out or the 308 steel case. All that stuff's going away. So all of what we're fighting over even becomes that much more limited. So this is a big deal. And it is something that we know is on purpose in order to create this exact scenario. Shortages mean less accessibility. Shortages mean prices go up. And when you can't afford to purchase ammunition, you can't afford to utilize your firearms. And then you can't afford to train. You can't afford to defend yourself. You can't afford to do a lot of things. And this is exactly where a lot of these problems are coming from. Okay. And just so everybody knows, I appreciate the mods. They're in here. They're doing their work. YouTube itself is also doing a lot of comment filtering. I don't agree with everything they filter, but I also can't see everything that happens while also running the live stream. So if your comment gets taken out, it's not because anyone did anything manually. It's because a lot of it's just being automatically reviewed. So I apologize for that. So let's see here. Let's get back in the chat. I want to talk to you guys real quick, and then we'll move on to a couple other articles I want you guys to be aware of to kind of see what this effect's going to be and what's coming next due to this whole situation. Okay, and I am seeing in the poll, most people are saying it's 7.62 by 39. And generally, I'd say that's one of the most popular imports from Russia. Of course, one of the things that a lot of people might not realize or might not be aware of is that, the standard cartridge is now the 5.45 by 39, and that's your AK-74. And that is extremely popular and used to be much cheaper and much more abundant in the sense of how much you could purchase and how much you could find. So I could see that actually being affected very much so because originally it was kind of like the backup plan in the sense of being able to spend more and get more for your money. But now it's going to be just as hard to get as the 7.62 by 39. I don't think 7.62 by 54R will be hugely affected. So I agree with the poll on that. And then 5.56 will be affected for the reasons that we just discussed. People will jump ship. They'll go back to AR-15s or they'll go back to something that they know is a NATO cartridge because they don't want to deal with this whole sanction situation. And then that'll just cause the rest of us to feel the pain even more. So all good points. I appreciate everybody's input on that. Let's see. I see some people saying things like Peter Dragon says, at Magic Prepper, I'm surprised that Russia would actually supply Americans with ammo anyways. And it's all money. And that's the biggest thing about this whole situation going on around the world right now. What we are seeing is that the dollar signs is what matters. It doesn't matter who's buying what or who's doing what. Russia doesn't care about the fact that, the citizenry here is armed and there's a Second Amendment and stuff like that. They're happy to sell their ammunition because they need to make as much money as possible because their country does not do very well in the sense of GDP. So they're more than happy to sell us their ammo. And honestly, at the end of the day, a big thing that we have to keep in mind is that if we're talking foreign powers and we're talking about conflict or anything like that, we're talking about the use of technology and weaponry that's far beyond small arms. And at that point, yes, there would be a place for small arms in the sense of being able to defend yourself with the best what you can do. But in the sense of actual military conflict, that's not what they're concerned with. So maybe they should be, but I don't think that they're concerned with it in the sense of hey, make some money from these people. Because at the end of the day, we already have tons and tons of ammo anyway. So Russia's not going to be worried about being part of that market share, or at least that's my opinion anyway. Let's see here. Russ Ream, no one wanted 545 by 39 spam cans at $200 4 years ago. And that's true. And that's the problem is that, all of a sudden that's going to seem like a really good deal. And at the same time, a lot of people might already have them. And those people are going to probably start trying to capitalize on the fact that this is all happening. And watch out for that. We all know it's coming. It's going to be a lot of price gouging and there's going to be a lot of scammers out there. And this is just how these things go. So keep this in mind. Destiny Troll, how do you feel about the Zastava M90 AKM chambered in 5.56 as an alternative? Obviously, all right, Zastava is generally good stuff. And yes, anything that gets chambered in 5.56 but maintains the functionality of that platform in the sense of reliability and robustness and everything, it's good to go. But there are some things to be said about the idea of, okay, well, if we're prepping and we're worried about preparedness and we're running 5.56, it almost makes just sense to stick with the AR platform just because of logistics and uniformity of parts and everything else related to it. Although, I mean, who doesn't love a good AK? So I totally get where you're coming from. Not a bad idea. But I also think there's going to be a run on those types of firearms in the same sense for that exact reason, because a lot of people have that same thought process. So keep that in mind. And you have to ask yourself if a 5.56 chambered AK is going to be worth $1,200 or whatever it might come up to. These are things we need to talk about, be aware of, because this is what's happening. It's all part of this plan to eliminate our ability to own what we want and have what we want on hand and not allow us to restock, because the more the shortage can go on for, the better it is for everybody in the sense of those who don't want us to have it, okay? It's not better for me. It's definitely not better for you, but here we are, okay? So Daniel says, just tuned in, but is there any way for Russia to get around this restriction? Well, of course, anytime there's sanctions, countries can, have backlash with each other and, produce their own sanctions or do whatever they want in the sense of trying to get back at each other. The problem is that this is just backdoor gun control, and Russia's not going to get involved with it in the sense of trying to, do a loop-de-loop or a runaround and trying to help us by any means. They're going to find their own way of retaliation, I'm sure. I would expect it to be in the form of unrelated cyber attacks in the future, because we all know how that works. But what I'm going to say is that this is clearly targeted at us more than them. And they know that too. Look, you don't punish an entire country for poisoning one person by saying you can't sell us ammo anymore. That doesn't work when the ammo is being bought by the people, not by the military. Our military is not buying Russian surplus ammo. We are. And that's the real problem. And that's what we have to be aware of. It's not about Russia not being able to sell it to us. It's about them not wanting us to have it. Okay. So let's see here. And there's Outlaw 6. The 7.62 by 39 is a dead caliber. Russia stopped making it 4 years ago. So understandable. A lot of people feel that way. 5.45 by 39 definitely took it over in the sense of what all the, com block style militaries and China and everybody else started to use. But yeah, I mean, 7.62 by 39 still has tons and tons of support, and there's still tons of firearms platforms out there that utilize it, especially in third world countries. So I think there's still a market for it, and there always will be a reason for it to exist. But I do understand what you mean. It does seem obsolete in certain ways. But at the same time, I mean, that's like saying, 5.56 is still like the most modern cartridge there is when it's been around for, 60 years or more at this point, actually. And then, we're just going to say, nothing else is better than it. So it's not obsolete. That's probably not how it works either. So let's see here. So I want to go ahead and get back into the meat and potatoes here is what we're going to call it. So this is a letter from congressmen the same amount of time ago, right? More than 4 months ago, where they wanted the White House to do these things. And this is what you guys need to be reminded of. And this is what I wanted to remind everybody of, because this is what they're going to do next. And this is why we need to be aware of this. This is not just, hey, I'd really like us to have, some better conversation about this whole thing. Like, no, they literally want this to happen, and they're pushing it into the next zone. So this is from members of Congress to the White House, and it's on March 25th, 2021. So like I said, we're talking 5 months ago at this point. Okay. Basically, all it says is we'd like to request that you issue an executive order banning the importation of assault weapons, including semi-automatic rifles and high-capacity magazines, into the United States from abroad. So notice that this doesn't actually say anything about ammunition, but what it does say is that this is what they like to see, and we all know that this all goes in tandem. It's all step by step. This is part of the dance, and this is exactly where they want things to go. So I don't think it's far-fetched now, after seeing what just happened, to expect some of these other initiatives to take place. So notice they use certain words like semi-automatic rifles. They're not worried about what it is exactly. They're not worried about their little definition of what an assault rifle is or anything like that. All they care about is if it's semi-auto and it's a rifle, we don't want it. And then also high-capacity magazines, which they will tell you what that means because it has whatever meaning they decide it has in that moment. And this is the letter that was put out 5 months ago, and here we are with this Russian ammunition ban. Is it stated in this letter? Of course not. But is it exactly where they're heading towards? Yes, I believe so. And I do believe that there's more initiatives on the way for this exact same scenario, okay? So, honestly, this is exactly where we're headed, okay? They want to do more of this, and they're going to justify it. And the justification for this is pretty ridiculous. Like I said, it's one person that was poisoned within another country, and now the entire American population of gun owners is suffering because of it. Not just people with AKs, not just people with SKSs, not just people with most of the guns. It's everybody who owns a firearm, because all the ammunition is going to be affected by this whole situation. They're going to create a scenario where people are going to panic because they can't get the ammo anymore, so they're going to buy it all up. The other people are going to switch back to other ammunitions, and they're going to switch back to other platforms, and then we're all going to be trying to fight over the same amount of ammo that's already there, which is already short and scarce. This is where things are going, and they already knew this would happen. If they think that they actually are ignorant to this whole situation, then you're doing yourself a disservice, because the people who are putting these ideas together are actually smarter than we give them credit for, because they do a great job of subversion and letting us know how dumb they are in front of us all the time, when really they're out, the master plan makers in the back room at the end of the night. Okay, so let's see here. We've got a couple other things going on in the chat here. Northern Girl Hobbies, thanks for being here. I appreciate it. I really do. Shadow Scout Swede, good morning. Good night here where I am, but good morning. That works for me. And you know what? We can have coffee together, because there's never a bad time for coffee. It doesn't matter if the sun's up or down or whatever, okay? So, and I do want to let you guys know that, as per many of your recommendations, yes, I did finally watch the show Jericho, and I did have a good time with it. And of course, it had a lot of early 2000s drama stuff in it that was kind of, whatever. But as a show as a whole, it was interesting. I had a good time with it. So thanks for the recommendation. All right. So, ammo is very expensive. Things are falling apart in that regard. What else do we have to be worried about with this whole Russian situation? And here's the thing. A lot of people need to be aware of what it is else that Russian exports, include. What else does Russia export? Why didn't I say that? I don't know. But Russia exports not much, in all honesty. So here's what they export, so that we can all be aware of it and understand what else could be written off and taken off the table if anyone decides that it needs to be. And that is going to go up here in just 1 second. Okay, so top 10 Russian exports. Mineral fuels, including oil, was 42% of their exports. Then is gems and precious metals. Then iron and steel. And it moves on from there. And I'll let you guys finish the list on your own. But what this tells you is that anything in this list is definitely something that could be affected if more sanctions ever need to be rolled out. And this gives you ideas of other things that the government can utilize against us, in the sense of, okay, well, we can stop this country from exporting things. And what else is on here that we might want to stop them from exporting? Well, gems and precious metals is 9% of their total export, which is interesting in the sense of things that we might need in when it comes to other forms of currency. So precious metals could be affected by any of these moves in the future. Iron and steel, that's an interesting one as well, because obviously it's a huge component in a lot of their ammunition, as well as a lot of other things. But basically what I'm saying is that anything listed on this whole list right here could easily be restricted in the future. And it's just something I wanted to bring up to you guys, because obviously you don't see firearms and ammunition listed on here, but the raw materials that are utilized in order to create those things are definitely on here, as well as things like precious metals, which is another big part of what we do in the preparedness community. So just keep these things in mind, because anything they decide they want to remove from the equation can easily be done through justifications of other things within their, sanctions and realm of ability. Okay. So wanted to bring that up real quick, not to, give Russia any credit or anything like that. All I was trying to say is that they don't export much, but what they do export could easily have an effect on us if anybody ever decides they're no longer able to. And that's where we're at here with ammunition. So why not assume it can be done with anything else if they ever decided, okay? So let's see. I want to get back in the chat. I see Vlad Grutz is here. Very good to see you. Very little ammo, South Colorado, Trinidad. Okay. And honestly, that's just how it's been. And we've seen that for a long, long time now. I've seen more ammunition back on the shelf, or at least in the sense of what I can acquire, especially in regards to 308 and 5.56 and 9mm. But the prices are still out of control. And it's still like not where I want to be in the sense of being able to purchase more. Do I have what I want for right now? Yes. But do I think I could always have more? Of course. And this Russian ammo ban is not going to help any of that. Doesn't matter what it is I'm buying. And this is where those weird situations come into play, because what a lot of people do, especially in the preparedness community, is they like to standardize. So, all right, I have 5.56, I have 7.62 by 51, I've got 9mm, 45 ACP, and 22 long rifle, and I'm good to go. And that's good, except for that's a lot of this, everyone else's mindset as well. So for a long time, having things like 7.62 by 39 was a decent option because, not everybody's jumping on board with that. And you got an AK and you're feeling good about it, which I don't blame you for. But now we're in a situation where that might be a problem, and even more people are going to jump on board with the standardization. And so having like obscure calibers can still help kind of keep you afloat, or at least keep training or whatever it might be that you need to do in the interim. And that's why, I still have things like 6mm ARC as just another option, because yes, the platform's familiar, and yes, it has great performance, but, has it really changed in price? At least in my area, not a whole lot. But is it still available? Yes, because not a lot of people are running around with 6mm ARC, and that's just how it is. But it's not a viable long-term option when it comes to having what everybody else has. And that's going to be the issue, because now everybody's going to keep changing their minds about what is and what isn't available, okay? And some of the things I want you guys to be aware of too is that this doesn't stop with just Russian ammo, okay? And they're going to see that this works. They're going to see that this has an effect. Look, if you go on the websites, go on the places where you're going to buy ammo, you're going to find that all this Russian stuff is sold out, or it's not available, or it doesn't exist anymore. That's going to push people to feeling like, well, shit, I better get what else I need. Then they're going to go back and start buying the other stuff up again. And this whole thing is going to go back into the snowball factor. And once that snowball factor occurs, things are going to start rolling downhill to a point where they never go back uphill to the same place again. And that's the big concern here. They're pushing things forward further and further, and they're pricing people out of the firearms ownership situation. They're trying to price people out of being able to afford to practice their Second Amendment rights. They're trying to push people out of being able to afford to practice in general. They're trying to push people out to be able to afford to be part of the crowd, part of the hobby, part of the sport, and part of what it is that, we want in the sense of being able to defend ourselves. So it's all part of the plan, and this is where it's coming from. And you guys need to understand that, like I said, recently, when you're the new enemy, that is one way to get us to have less. And if it works, which it will, because it's already showing to have worked, then they're going to see what else they can do and keep pushing that whole can down the road, I guess is the best way to say it. So back in the chat, I'm seeing some good stuff come through here. And, T-Rex says, is 223 good for live combat? So I assume that there is some sarcasm there or something like that, just because of the whole aspect of what he's asking. But here's what I'm going to tell you guys. I've never been in combat before, so I'm not going to comment on what's good or not good in combat. I'm going to comment on what's available or accessible for us to utilize for training and for us to utilize for storage and having what we want on hand and being as prepared as we want to be in the sense of being able to defend ourselves or take care of each other during an emergency situation. But I'm never going to comment on anything like live combat, because if I don't have the experience, there's nothing for me to say about it. That's the best I can tell you on that, okay? So, let's see. We've got other people coming in through the chat. And this is me just kind of checking in and seeing what everybody's saying. So there's always some good stuff in here, okay? 7.62 by 39 will always be a big deal. 303 British is still no joke, available enough. John D said so. And I get what you're saying, and it's interesting, imagine if we would have actually gone with 280 British back in the day, would we even be talking about this right now? Would everybody just gotten on board? Who knows? Okay. So, and Daniel Nolan just said 30-30 ran out pretty quick around here during the spike. And that is the issue. Like I said, this isn't just the Russian stuff. This isn't just the ammunition we're discussing. This is going to affect everything. And a lot of people are going to use this as a way to justify pushing American manufacturing and pushing American jobs and pushing American components and all of that stuff that sounds good and is good. And it's easy to just say those things because they're good. You know, we want American manufacturing. We want America first. We want America to have the best of everything and be able to make the money and not waste our money on foreign countries that are our adversaries in one way or another. So why is this a bad thing if we can just allow ourselves to jump in and fill the gap and then not support Russian ammo and not have to spend money in other countries when we could just do it here? And the issue is just that the supply and the demand factor means that it's never going to be as accessible or as affordable as what we were getting before from countries like Russia. So it's not about, you know, saying, well, we don't want to support American manufacturing. The whole thing is about right now, this is accessible and affordable, and it won't be anymore. And there's not enough time, there's not enough resources, as we know, due to the supply chain, and there's not enough labor to actually have American manufacturers take over that market share and put it out at the same price and affordability as what it is at right now. So yes, I think the best thing that could happen is eventually down the road, American manufacturing takes over every aspect of what we want to do here and puts out cheaper and more acquirable things like ammunition, while still, you know, are basically hiring and creating a workforce of American workers here in the country. Of course, that's the best thing we could ask for, but it's not a feasible thing to actually accomplish right now, especially with everything that's happening. So I wanted to make sure to just discuss that and let you guys know that, you know, of course, it's easy to say that, and some people will say that. But what I'm trying to say is that there's not enough time, and there's not enough energy, and there's not enough labor, and there's not enough resources for American manufacturers to actually catch up to that demand right now. So it's just going to make everything worse rather than, you know, having some kind of like righteous moment where America jumps in and takes over the AK market and decides to never deal with anything from that part of the world again. So wanted to put that out there. And let's see, there's a lot of other people here. Let's see. Okay, so we got some controversial stuff coming in. That's my favorite. Not so remote Alaska says 223 is good to get people off the battlefield, not so much to end the life. I guess I can say that here. I don't know. But injure one and cause two more to carry off the field, just my opinion. And that is some people's opinion. And that's something that you guys can discuss now in the comments because I brought it up, and it's going to cause a lot of problems, I'm sure. But there is like a strategy behind utilizing certain cartridges. And of course, 5.56, the way it was developed originally, was to allow for fully automatic fire to be easier to handle and to be, I guess, you know, logistically better in the sense that if you're going to send full auto suppressive fire downrange, you want to be able to carry more ammunition that has less recoil and is easier to handle, and you want to be able to put more of it downrange faster. So that was like at least what my understanding is as to the argument for it against things like 7.62 by 51 NATO back in the day. And of course, you know, as things change and evolve, maybe the necessity for certain types of cartridges changes and evolves. And that's why we're seeing a big push for the 6.8 that the military is working on right now for their next generation, you know, special weapons concept or whatever it is that is. So trying to remember all that off the top of my head and talking really fast and drinking coffee at the same time. We are at the 38-minute mark. Guys, you are awesome. And this Russian ammo ban, it's hitting, and it's going to hit hard. And I hope you reload, or I hope you at least have the concept of reloading down, because at the end of the day, we might be looking at having to do that a lot more often. And it's something that I've done for years, and it's something I've enjoyed for a long time. But reloading is not necessarily a great time or a great option for refilling thousands of rounds, but it is a way to keep going when you can't do anything else. And that is something that, you know, I will never argue with, and that's something that I enjoy about it. So don't forget Invader Coffee, taking care of this live stream, helping me out, stay awake. Awesome coffee, American-owned, veteran-operated, and not BRCC. So I think there's links in the description if you guys want to get some Invader Coffee. It helps support this channel, and it keeps me awake at, well, 9, 10 at night. Oh, yeah, that's good. Okay, so listen, I want to know in the chat, and I want you guys to tell me right here, what exactly is your biggest concern about this whole situation? Do you think that the loss of additional access is going to be the biggest problem? Are they going to remove your ability to access certain firearms platforms? Are they going to remove even more ammunition from the market? Or are you more concerned about what this is going to do to the current market and what this is going to do to your ability to get what you want right now from your current LGS or wherever it is you buy your stuff from? Or are you worried that this is just the first step towards even worse measures in the sense of totalitarian control? And that's something that we all need to talk about, because this is where we're kind of headed. You know, it's obvious that all these things are happening, and it's obvious why they're happening. But they're just going to happen, I guess, for now. And that's the big issue. And obviously, we're kind of trying to do our best to kind of see how things go and trying to navigate what's happening here. But at a certain point, we all know this is going to not be so great. So let me know in the comments. Give me a heads up on what you guys think the next biggest issue is going to be. And like here, you know, welcome to my life, says at Magic Prepper. This is really a stepping stone to a full-on gun ban. Understandable, okay? And that is exactly what I think some people would love to see. And a lot of people would love to follow the model of places like Australia or the UK. But the problem is that those people don't realize or remember that this is not Australia or the UK. And for those of you who are from those countries, please put it in the chat and let us know your thought process, because maybe you're okay with it. Maybe you're like, you know what, honestly, nothing bad's happened for a long time. We're good with it. But I have a feeling most of you, especially because you're here in a prepper live stream, are probably upset about the whole situation. And I have a feeling that a lot of you are wishing you had something like the Second Amendment right now in order to utilize and, protect yourself during any kind of a situation. Okay, so yeah, Agape Beowulf. As history told us, things went south real quick when rulers began disarming their citizens. Let's look at what happened in Afghanistan right now. And that is exactly true. In Afghanistan, even Afghanistan is ditching the 7.62 by 39. So here's some more problems, I guess. I don't know. I don't know exactly where they get all their ammo from, but I have a feeling it's not from most of the places that we do. But what I'm going to say is that clearly they're all cool with adopting 5.56 at this point, and that is going to be an issue down the road, I'm sure. So one more thing, and I'm going to bring this up to everybody because I actually brought it up on a live stream previously, but it is something I wanted to remind you about once again and give you another idea of where this is heading, okay? And Northern Girl Hobbies, you're Canadian. My concern, totally understandable, and that's why we like having you here, because you know what? Neighbors to the north, we got your back. It just, when the time comes, okay? So here is a little story about why it's just so hard for the police departments to be able to train now because of this whole ammo shortage. Guys, I'm telling you, they're setting all the pieces into place to justify the situation that they're going to have to put into place. Very soon here, you're going to find yourself in a scenario where you just might not be able to get ammo because the priority has to go somewhere more important. And think about what happened last year during the beginning of the pandemic, okay? Who got priority over supplies? Okay, at the time, we're talking about medical supplies like gloves and masks and hand sanitizer and all that stuff. We all know that that got priority to the medical facilities because at the time they were running a shortage. They couldn't keep up with the demand. So they needed it. And we were told that we had to make sure they got what they needed before we could. And, made sense at the time, right? Well, this is exactly what you can expect down the road here. And now this whole Russian ammo ban is pushing the situation into worse territory, and which is going to make things like this, where the ammunition shortage causing some police departments to cut back on usage and training, is going to become an issue that's utilized against us because now the police are no longer able to train because us terrible people out here who have been buying all the ammo up and causing the shortage and acting like fools are going to need to just stop and need to put the brakes on it so the cops can get back to training. Don't you guys understand how important police training is to make sure more people don't find themselves at the wrong end of a firearm? Well, here's what's got to happen. We've got to make sure the police get their ammunition first. And this is just where things look like they're heading. And I'm bringing it to your attention once again because these are the things I look at. And then I put the pieces together and I say, look, obviously, we're hearing about this because somebody's upset about it and somebody's going to make a stink about it. And once something bad happens, right, this in mind, because I'm not trying to, dish on cops or anything like that. Obviously, we definitely, appreciate what our police do and stuff in many ways. But what I'm trying to say is that if another bad event happens, and now what happens to the police departments after these bad events, in the sense of people blaming them for every little mistake that is made, now they're going to be able to utilize more justifications as to why these things are happening. Now, look at what's happening with 80% when it comes to police departments suing companies, because that's what's being used against them. Well, imagine what's going to happen when something else bad happens, and it's because of lack of training. And we would have had enough training, but we couldn't get enough ammunition because of this whole shortage, and because the citizens are just buying all the ammunition, and now there's no Russian ammunition, so they're buying even more ammunition, and now the police just can't get out and train. So we wouldn't have made that mistake if there would have been enough training, but unfortunately, those pesky citizens out there buying up all the ammo that they definitely don't need, they're the problem, and we got to fix it, because, the police station can no longer accept fault for these things any longer, because we all know what will happen if the mob decides that they're at fault. So, do you see why I'm trying to bring this to your attention? I'm not just putting this out there to try to freak you guys out. I'm not telling you guys to go buy 1 million rounds of ammo right now, because that's actually not what I'm trying to do. Because in all honesty, it's way too expensive. And it's ridiculous how fast the Russian ammo sold out overnight because of this whole situation. What I'm trying to let you know is that you need to prepare for these things to continually move forward in the direction that we don't want them to. And you can see that this justification that is going to be put out there is just going to keep coming our way. We can see it. Okay, it's obvious. We're putting the pieces together. We're reading the reports. They're putting out articles. This is your fault. This is your fault. This has to go. We can't allow it. Oh my gosh, it's going to make the market even worse. Oh well, does anyone care? Of course people don't care unless they're part of this community. And the people who are in this community care. But we all know that the average person who tries to make these decisions definitely doesn't care what we care about. So, wanted to bring this up. Okay, look. People will ask me a lot, what should I do? Should I buy ammo? Should I not buy ammo? Should I buy tons of ammo? Should I buy a little bit of ammo? Here's my suggestion, and this is just my personal suggestion, and I'm not a financial advisor, so I don't know if anyone would ever try to use that against me in this context. But what I'm going to say is that make sure you have what you need, bare minimum at least, okay? Don't just sit there with an AR-15 in your gun safe, but no ammunition. I mean, that makes no sense at all. So don't do that. But also don't go out and buy thousands and thousands of extra rounds right now that you don't need to spend the money on if you already have a decent amount put away. Because you're just throwing money in the trash that could be used for other preps and other things that could maybe be more useful in many ways. When I say that, what I mean is, I don't know, backup power, additional food storage, all the basics, But maybe tomorrow's video will give you an idea of what you should spend some of that money on instead of ammunition. We'll see. I'm not going to tell you what it is. I can't. All right. You got to check it out tomorrow. But what I'm trying to say is it's not a good time to buy, but do not short yourself. Don't be on the other end of the stick where you're like, well, crap, I've got 7 Palmetto State Armories ready to go and I don't have any ammo. That doesn't make any sense. Don't do that to yourself, but at least get yourself what you need, bare minimum, to load up those mags, and don't make me sad. Because that's exactly what we need to have, okay? If you're making me sad by having empty magazines, that's probably a problem. And if you have so many magazines that you can't fill them all, and you have a lot of ammunition as well, that might be a problem too, because you might have bought like too many magazines. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say is that there's a fine balance you have to find. But the biggest part of that balance you have to be on top of is not having nothing. So that's the best way for me to put this, okay? So let me talk to you guys in the comments a little bit more here, okay? Tom F., thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Like I said, guys, make sure you're taking care of yourselves. And I know a lot of people, they hate on stuff like the affiliates, they hate on Amazon links and all that stuff. And look, here's what I'm going to say about that. And I just want you guys to be aware of it, because I do get a lot of flack for it in comments and stuff like that. And probably not from you guys, because most of you are here to support and hang out and be part of the community more so than just catching a video every so often. But what I'm going to say is that why I do affiliate links and why I do that stuff rather than just literally like selling products or any of that kind of stuff is because it doesn't cost you any extra money at all. It doesn't cost you anything more, but it allows you to get what you need and spend the money you were going to spend anyway, and at the same time support this channel and support, other companies like Invader Coffee that you might not have known about, and still getting good product and still acquiring things that can help you in the future without having to shell out extra cash. And I guess that's my whole thought process there. So I wanted to address that and just kind of let you guys know, because that's not, something that maybe a lot of people realize. It's more about, giving you the ideas and the options, letting you buy it wherever you want. But if you do buy it from those links, it at least goes to somebody that you're trying to support, and it doesn't charge you any additional. Just my 2 cents. Okay. So I do want to say, I have definitely gotten lost in this live chat because there's some great stuff here. And Andy, I don't know how to say it, but Andy says, when all other handgun cartridges were sold out, okay, and I can't talk for some reason, shelves were full of 10 millimeter auto. 10 millimeter is awesome. And honestly, I mean, you would almost think it's like the future of, handgun rounds with what its whole dual capability is. The big issue with 10 millimeter was that a lot of people, especially with small statures or people that weren't as strong or whatever it might be, had a hard time handling the recoil and just didn't feel or ever get comfortable with it when they were using it in handgun platforms, because honestly, 10 millimeter has a good kick to it. So if it wasn't for that and there was some other way to mitigate the recoil, but it still had all the same ballistics, yeah, I mean, 10 millimeter would be off the charts. But I think a lot of people can't jump on board just because, it'd be like if I give my wife a 10 millimeter, like she would not enjoy shooting it, and that's just how it is. But 9 millimeter, all good to go. So those are just things that we have to keep in mind. Let's see, Mr. Spin, no ammo for the police. All they have to do is red flag someone who has a lot of ammo. So that's an interesting point, Mr. Spin. And that brings me to another couple of ideas here, okay? So I want you guys to be aware that in California, there's a lot of activity going on right now. And I actually talk with a few people that like run gun stores and stuff like that, right? They're in the know when it comes to, some of the stuff that's going on. And we know that California is often ground zero for a lot of the things that happen in the rest of the country, especially in like blue states where they try to take a cue from one state and utilize it in theirs because, well, it's working, or they'll give me points or whatever it is. So what we're seeing over there in California right now, at least according to some of these people, is that a lot of temporary restraining orders are being given out from judges who aren't really concerned with like the reasonings behind them, more so with the idea that it's basically a red flag law situation. And these restraining orders, or the temporary ones, are being given out left and right, and people are calling each other and their neighbors and whatever it may be. And it's like you can go through the process. Yes, you'll probably have your firearms removed from your possession temporarily, and then they'll find out that there wasn't a problem, and then you'll get your firearms back. But in that interim, I mean, you pretty much lost your rights and you've lost your ability to maintain your Second Amendment, protections. So that's what they're already doing over there. And that's what I'm hearing, at least from people who are within the industry there. I haven't talked to anybody who's had it happen to them personally, but I have no reason to think these people are just saying these things for, just fun. So obviously this is an issue that could definitely keep escalating. And I think that when you said that, Mr. Span, it kind of reminded me of that. Like, yeah, you're right. I mean, they can easily just come in and do that now. And it's already sort of happening in some places. Now, I don't think it's happening because they want to take, people's ammunition, but I think it's happening because they're testing the water and they want to see what level of compliance there might be. And they also want to let people know that they can do this. Just something to keep in mind, okay? So trying to jump back in here. And look, guys, like I said, the mods, they're doing their job. I don't know exactly what's getting deleted and stuff all the time, but I trust them to do what they got to do to keep things running smooth. But if you ever feel like, things aren't right, you can always contact me directly at magicprepper@gmail.com, and I will do my best to, at least have a chat with you or something. Maybe you hate me and you want to tell me directly. That's a good place to do it. Okay. So let's see. Okay. Brass prices are going to skyrocket very soon. Go to your local range and pick up brass and keep it, says Prairie Man. Well, I think that's valid because any components when it comes to reloading seem to go through the roof when all this stuff starts to happen. And here we are again. So yes, brass is going to go up. And honestly, if you can get your hands on things like brass 762x39 or brass 545x39, just for the ability to reload it, maybe that's worth it, at least just to spend the extra money on, a couple boxes of this or that. So you have some reloadable stuff laying around. Just an idea. Okay. ND Prepper. Hi, how's it going? This is your neighbor, CJ. Nice to see you. Okay. Well, there's a lot of awesome people out in North Dakota. And what I'll say to you guys here in the chat, and what I'll say to everybody who's kind of not sure about like where they are right now, or like what it is they've been doing, or how they're trying to maybe get out of where they are right now. North Dakota has been really welcoming to me and my family, has been a huge change in the sense of our ability to have a quality of life, and definitely has things like the gun stuff you want, okay? And that's the best way I'm going to say it, in the sense of this is a great place to be. And the only negative really that I can find is the weather, in the sense of the winter. But if you prepare for it properly and you know how to keep yourself warm and stay warm throughout a decent cold winter out here, no matter if the grid is up or down, other than that, I mean, it's a great place to be. And I'm just going to say, I'm happy to be here. So if you're thinking of relocating and you're looking for a place that's got freedom and has space and has land and has, people who have like-minded thought processes, North Dakota is not a bad place. I've definitely had a good time here, and there's a lot of opportunity here. There's a lot of jobs here for people that might not have college degrees. I don't have a college degree. There you go. Something else you now know about me. But you can do a lot out here without one, and you can make more money than a lot of people do with one. So that is something else to consider, because this is a great place for people who are looking for a better opportunity or a leg up. Just my opinion, just my experience, okay? So, Arkansas whoop ass. In North Dakota, you can shoot for miles and not hit your neighbor. That's not always true. I'm not going to argue with you on that one, though, because it is pretty funny. And I will say that, look, there's a reason why I built that 6mm arc, okay? There's a reason why I thought having something long range might be worth having around, because at the end of the day, yes, I can see like 5 miles out my front door. Okay, so Benji Bronk, is there plenty of woods in the Dakotas? No, but there's badlands and there's grasslands, and there's certain types of beauty that you can't find anywhere else. And I think that there's an appeal to some of the topography out here, aka the property I'm on now. It's mostly flat land. You know what's great about that? I can stick solar panels wherever I want. So, there's definitely ups and downs to any type of landscape that you find. But trees and stuff, not really a big thing out here. Okay, so which I guess in the sense of worrying about brush, not even a big deal either. So I don't know. You tell me. Maybe you don't have to worry about 5.56 not getting through the brush. I don't know. Okay, so Corporal American Preparedness, going to talk about the Afghanistan fallout. What I'll say about that, because we've talked about it and I've addressed it here on the channel. And obviously there's a lot going on right now in the sense of, dissenting information being squelched in some way or another. But what I'm going to say is that everybody agreed that at some point in time you have to get out of there. But God, you think there'd be a much better plan. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to realize that what they did wasn't going to work very well. But hey, what do I know? I'm not within that industry. I don't know the ins and outs of how evacuations work. All I know is that what happened seemed somewhat avoidable and could probably have been done with a little bit more finesse. And now we are in a big trash fire that we don't want to be in. So the one thing you can say about it, and this is just going to probably upset somebody, but what I'm going to say is that the one thing you can say about it is that it exposes the level of leadership that we currently have here in the country. And I'm not just even pointing fingers at like the White House. What I'm saying is like even the Pentagon, even everyone who's involved in making these decisions clearly are not the leaders that we would hope they would be. So hopefully this exposes that concept to more people who might be regretting some of their decisions in the past, or might feel that they would make a different decision in the future due to the level of incompetence that we're seeing right now. Maybe that's the best thing I can say about it. Okay. So, okay. I will say there are some other great things coming in. Prepper Now, what's up? And if you guys don't know Prepper Now, make sure you check him out, because if you ever want to have a good perspective or opinion on different concepts when it comes to preparedness or different things that are happening around the world, Prepper Now is a great resource for that. And you will be very interested to hear some of his thought processes on what's happening in the world. And what I will say is that when somebody knows their history and can relay it to, what's happening right now, it can give you a good idea as to how we can avoid, what is about to happen. And Prepper Now is one of those people that I feel knows their history. So I just want to put that out there. Okay. Okay. So Vlad Gritz, and this is something I want to bring up because it comes up a lot. Have you ever waxed bird shot? Works good. Okay, so there is a concept where you can make basically slugs out of bird shot utilizing wax, right? So if you're in the chat and you've ever done that before or you have any experience with it, please leave it in the comments. Just let me know your thoughts on it because I have never tried it, but from my understanding, there's pros and cons. And a lot of people tried to say that the cons outweigh the pros, but I don't know. I haven't done it myself, and maybe there's some validity to it. And I'm trying to remember what exactly it's called. God, I can't remember the word right now, but there's a specific name people have for it. Leave it in the chat if you guys remember it, okay? So, all right. Let's see. Prepper now. Check out my latest on approval deep dive. Okay, and if you're not aware, and you're here and you're not aware, I'm surprised. But yes, approval was done today. Okay, we all know what I'm talking about when I say it. And the approval is there. So you can expect a lot more in the sense of mandates to be coming out very soon. So keep that in mind because you might be getting a notice from your employer or from your school or from whatever it is that you participate in here very soon that now that this approval exists, the mandates might be there. And with the way things are going, let's just assume at some point you'll have to have, some sort of proof in order to buy ammunition. Because why not? Let's just combine them at this point. Seems like the thing to do. Well, we've realized that a large demographic of people who aren't necessarily involved with this have an affinity towards the Second Amendment and tend to practice their firearms rights. So if we can combine the two, maybe we can kill two birds with one stone. Sorry, I just like to be devil's advocate and also take the form of some kind of weird yuppie once in a while, and it seems to work out well for me. So anyhow, okay, 308 build. Somebody asked about it, and I'm trying to get in there and find out. Boop, boop, boop. And yeah, I make robot noises sometimes when I think. I don't know if you've ever seen Grandma's Boy, but it's so much like that. Okay, Jeremy Trevino, how's the 308 build? Okay, 6 hour 716i is in the house right now, fully set up, ready to rock. I'm getting it out to the range here very soon. And I will make some kind of video on it, but I have to do things in a certain way in order to not upset the powers that be, okay? So I'm trying my best to figure out a way to demonstrate what it is that I put together, to demonstrate the platform that you guys all chose in the poll, which I appreciate you guys for giving me direction and trying to, find out what it is you really wanted to see or at least learn from. And then I'll craft something that gives you all the information you need in such a way that it doesn't. Yes. Okay. So best thing I can say. Okay. Let's see. Good morning, Venezuela. At Magic Prepper. I don't think any company will willingly pass up 10%, let alone 30% of their business. Unfortunately, and here's where I'm going to argue with you on that. We already saw that last year. Quite a bit. We saw it a lot, actually. And we see it even still now with certain businesses. So I guess the thing to consider is that certain businesses are willing to toe the line. And when I say that, it's generally small businesses. But big corporate entities have the backing that losing 10% of their sales just means charging 10% more to everybody else who's still there. And those people are there because they're willing to be there for whatever guidelines they have to follow. So I don't know about that anymore. A lot of people seem to have decided to go ahead and lose business over the last year. And we're going to see more of it. It's very much that way when it comes to ideology and business. Look, I don't think politics and business mesh. I don't think that it's a good mix. I don't think large corporate entities need to tell us their politics. It's not a big deal. And most of their campaign donations are public anyway. So what's the big deal? But they put it all out there front and center in commercials and on their marketing. They want you to know their politics. They want you to know what they do or don't support. And they don't seem afraid to lose 50% of their business based on a lot of their political jargon they put out. So I have zero hope that they would, stand strong for anything else, really, in all honesty. If you want to be a good, business, in my opinion, you try to stay as far away from politics as you can, and you try to be inclusive to anybody who's willing to spend your money, okay? And if you have certain, restrictions or standards for yourself and your business that you're not willing to break, then that's something you have to decide for yourself, and that's totally acceptable. But I don't think that businesses are really in that situation any longer. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to touch base with a couple others. Vegan Prepper, I appreciate it. I know you said I didn't need to acknowledge it, but I do appreciate it. I really do. Thank you so much. Okay. And let's see. Shotguns Machete says, you need to save your head, Magic Prepper. Save or shave? Because save, I could understand. Shave? I don't know about that. Because you see this white spot right here? Yeah, and when I shave my head, it makes it look like that whole area has no hair because the rest of my hair is black. So basically, I look like I'm like dying or radioactive or something, okay? Just throwing it out there because I've definitely tried it before, and it was not what I wanted to see. Okay, and let's see. Benji Bronk, looking to leave Long Island. Are there a lot of railroad jobs in your region? Here's what I'll say, Benji. I think so because I hear a train every single day, like 4 times a day. Yeah, there's trains all over the place. I would look into it. But honestly, if you're able to work on the railroad, there's probably a million other jobs out here you could easily do as well, especially when it comes to working on the pipeline and out in the oil field. And some of that, hard labor is like, it pays really well. And these guys make tons of overtime. So be it per diem and all kinds of perks. I mean, some of that kind of went away over the last year for obvious reasons. Everybody had to take a cut in order to kind of keep things afloat. But still, we're on our way, okay? Let's see. Good morning, Venezuela. I get what you're saying. I do. I don't know. I think so many people are either unwilling to cause a scene or they actually are afraid of losing their business. And here's the thing. A lot of people, if you're in business, I'm sure you understand this. And I'm not trying to say that you want it if you're not. But what I will say is that tons and tons and tons of businesses do not make very much money. They don't. The profit margins are really, really low. And when you're talking about, a small business that's making 5% profit on a good day, they have to make a huge decision. Am I going to stop what I'm doing in order to make a stand and then even lose that much more money possibly, or not be able to afford the legal protection I might need in doing so? Or am I going to deal with some of this guidance and stuff in order to just keep making that 5% every day, or else I have to shut my doors? That's a lot of the problem. Okay. So, and I'm just throwing it out there because this stuff's tough, man. Okay. Let's see. All right. BC, screw your freedoms. Was that pretty good? I think so. Okay. So if you don't know what I just did, you can look at his comment. Anyway, okay, Magic Prepper needs to keep his hair because it's cold where he lives and you lose most of your heat from your head. Hey, Black Bart, thank you for defending my hair. And honestly, sure. All right. Reality check. You can't eat gold or shoot it. That's true. And honestly, I do want to say that there's always a place for precious metals, but they shouldn't overtake your ability to be prepared for things like food, water, and even in this case, Russian ammunition. So just keep that in mind, because right now, I guarantee if you are full of Russian ammo, you're about to make quite a return on your investment, okay? So keep that in mind. Probably a better percentage than you will have gold or silver. Throwing it out there. All right, so I'm trying to get back in here. I want to talk to you guys. Okay, Dave Sickles. Should we switch from 7.62 by 39 to 5.56 by 45 or another available caliber, or would it be smarter to get into reloading? So, Dave, and I don't know if you were here earlier in the chat, but that is what I was talking about earlier, is that a lot of people are going to think that switching is the right thing to do now. So I would say, based on polls I've taken here on the channel and based on a lot of other indicators out there, that, most people are already in the 5.56 category. Most people are rocking AR-15s and jumping on 5.56 when they have the chance. But from what I found, at least like from polls here on this channel and stuff, about 13 to 20% of people rock an AK or an SKS and utilize 7.62 by 39 or 5.45 by 39. So those people might be deciding to make that switch now for this exact reason. The problem is that that's going to cause an exponential increase in this shortage, which is going to hurt 5.56. It's going to hurt 2.23. It's going to hurt 7.62 by 39 because those same people already have their share of that, and they're going to be going to get the rest of the other stuff. So it's not going to actually help the market at all. It's going to hurt it, and they're going to have a harder time getting the 5.56 because of everybody else having the same idea. So my thought process is not to switch per se, But I would say to make sure you have a well-rounded inventory of a little bit of this and a little bit of that, so that way you can ride out whatever storm might be coming your way. But that thought process is the big deal here. That thought process is a big part of why this whole Russian ammo ban is going to cause big problems down the road, because a lot of people are going to wake up tomorrow or 3 days ago and have that same exact thought process, and that is an issue. Okay, and I'm not going to toot my own horn, okay, but there's a reason among many why maybe my primary ammunition source right now, at least from what I have, is 7.62 by 51 NATO or 308, because there's a lot of reasons as to why that's always been more of a standby for me. But at the same time, that's even gone now, and even that is, when it is back, very, very expensive. And I'm not willing to pay $45 for Federal Fusion 150 grain soft point 308. So all this is happening, and it doesn't matter what you shoot, it's going to be more expensive, okay? And all these AK guys and SKS guys and the guys that I love that do a great job on being very prepared and also awesomely marauderish, they're all hurting right now. And they're going to make decisions based on this situation one way or the other. And 95% of them don't listen to what I have to say or don't even know who I am. Okay, you're right. It's 99.97%. But that goes for everybody out there. Gun owners around this country, only 5% of them probably actually tune in and watch YouTube videos about this stuff. Only 5% of them probably know that these things are even happening. We feel like we all know about it because we're so involved with the community. We're in forums, we're on YouTube, we're on social media, talking about it, living the life, getting involved, enjoying the hobby. But lots of gun owners are bought a gun, put it in my nightstand, and that's the end of it. So keep that in mind, okay? All right, trying to get back in the chat. Jeez, I know I'm talking. I just keep talking. That's all I do. Michael D223, 308 all day. Your name might allude to something else, sir. I'm a little bit concerned about this little trope we're on here, okay? So feel like we have a undercover 223 guy. Anyway, Benji Bronk, I have all the rounds that were spoken about. Don't ever underestimate 22 long rifle. Lightweight and will do the job. Cheap, reliable, thousands of rounds, no problem. Totally get it. Totally on board with the 22 long rifle. Totally wouldn't trust it to defend my life unless it was all I had. All right, I was just waiting for the pain, but that is just how I feel about it, okay? I've had way too much unreliable 22 long rifle ammunition over the years to want it to be my primary source of self-defense. But when it comes to SHTF, like bug out and survival, yeah, who cares? There's a reason why I recently bought a 22 long rifle revolver, because it has less hiccups than a semi-auto seems to have during those little issues with the ammunition, because the wheel just turns again. Yes, I know hang fires and all that stuff. Got it. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Paul Taylor, Magic, how and why North Dakota? How? Job relocation. And there's plenty of them out here. Searchindeed.com, relocation package. You will find jobs all over the country that offer relocation and will get you out of whatever crap hole you're in that you want to leave, okay? Because that's what I felt like I had to do. Anyway, why North Dakota? Well, it was a lot of the job more so in the beginning, because I had job offers from other states as well. And I decided to take this job more than I decided to take this state, because the other states I had job offers in were Wyoming, right, and Montana, which all have similar concepts of, ideology and gun rights and stuff like that. But North Dakota, now that I'm here, I have an affinity with because of a lot of different aspects of the state. And, obviously everyone around here is a huge Teddy Roosevelt fan, and Teddy Roosevelt has a lot of good things to say in the sense of, what it is to be prepared. And one of his quotes has always stuck with me because of being here in North Dakota and being exposed to so much Teddy Roosevelt. But the whole, do what you can with what you have where you are, that really resonates with me here, because it's like, I'm here, I have this opportunity, I have this this place that I can call my home, and I'm gonna do what I can with it because this is where I am, and it's just kind of like the quote of the state in many ways, at least how I feel about it, because that's what people do out here. Do what they can with what they have where they are, and they make it work. And the people out here are hardworking and they take care of business, and people do it they feel is right out here. The communities take care of each other. And I have no complaints, in all honesty. I really don't. A lot of good people have come together to help me and my family since we've moved here. And, yeah, does the weather suck? Does the landscape kind of have a little bit of a lackluster feel sometimes? But is the guy next to you in line in the grocery store probably rocking a 45 ACP on his belt and ready to go shoot a deer the next day? Yeah. So, so that's where we are. Okay. Okay. So, Dr. Prepper, you're late. It's okay. We have forgiveness around here, and being late is forgivable. And let's see here. Okay. Chicken Prepper. I had a talk the other day with Mr. Wrongdoing, right? He sends his apologies to you for mistaking you for someone else. He said he was sorry. Awesome, because that perplexed me so much the other day. I felt so bad. This guy thought I gave him bad information. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what you're talking about. I really don't. I'm thinking, racking my brain like, man, maybe I said something weird that just came off as a certain piece of intel or something, but I didn't. I don't know. It definitely had me awake for a little bit there. But I appreciate you talking to him, and I appreciate him apologizing. Even though that wasn't necessary, at least I know now that I definitely wasn't the source of his, issue, because he was really upset. Okay, so back into the chat. Okay. All right. So I'm trying to get back in here. I want to talk to you guys. And I just want you guys to know that, like, the reason I want to do this live stream and wanted to focus it on the Russian ammo ban is because we can't be prepared for what could occur if we can't defend ourselves and if we can't defend our preps. If we can't secure what we have, then we don't have anything. And that is why we call these Marauder Mondays, right? Because the concept of Marauders is such a fantastical concept. You think of Mad Max, you think of Road Warrior, like guys with spikes on their shoulder pads and mohawks riding with assless chaps on a motorcycle that, might be what I did that one time. But what I'm trying to say is that these people are real and they will exist in an SHTF environment. They will exist in a post-crisis environment. And without the ability to protect yourself or what it is you've done to prepare, those people will do what they can to take it from you. And that's why these things are an issue. It's not about, every little piece of the puzzle. It's about the big picture of we're just trying to be as prepared as we can for any scenario. And in any scenario, in any emergency, in any SHTF event, there's a good possibility that bad people will exist and bad people will try to do what they will in order to acquire what you have. So that's why this is important, because honestly, for a long, long time, and if you have just showed up to the game, you're brand new, okay? You're here, you're ready, but you're kind of new to the whole firearms thing and you're new to preparation in general, okay? For years, people could get SKSs, AK-47s, most of the guns for cheap. I'm talking less than a handgun. We're talking $100, $200, $400, and it just keeps going up and up and up and up and up and up and up. And now we're at a point where with this ammunition ban, okay, maybe those firearms won't be as desirable, but the ability to feed them will be very, very difficult. And the big issue that we have is that many people were smart and bought a lot of this surplus stuff a long time ago when it was affordable. If you could buy 10 SKSs and stash them away, why wouldn't you? Because honestly, an SKS is an excellent semi-automatic rifle. It has an excellent track record. It's accurate. It's user-friendly. And at the end of the day, you don't need a million magazines if you can run stripper clips. So there's a lot of reasons why these excellent, value buys that existed from overseas were a good thing for people who wanted to be prepared, okay? For people who wanted to share with their community, share with their mag, be able to arm up their team rather than relying on everybody being able to provide for themselves. Because in many situations, people can't afford to do some of these things, which is fine. But the people who could were able to actually do more because of things like those surplus firearms that were available. Now, many of those firearms are banned or restricted on import. You can only get them from certain nations like, Serbia. And then they're now expensive. And buying a Serbian AK-47 is now $1,000. Whereas, an old Wasser 10 would have ran you, $300 or $400 back in the day. So now those people who did their due diligence and bought what they could buy back then are being punished with this ammunition situation, being punished for not being able to acquire more of the ammo they need for training and range time. And the reason someone with, multiple SKSs with the thought process of being able to take care of the community might want to buy large amounts of ammunition is so they can train those people when they're able to. And people aren't always able to do that until they are. So having that ammunition to be able to utilize that for was important. And now it's harder and harder to get. So you can see why this is such a big deal. It's not just about, well, I can't get that now, so I guess I'll just buy an AR. Or, 7.62 by 39 seemed cool. Got a CMMG mutant, very sweet. I'm just not going to do it, though, because I'm going to go back to 5.56. It's about a lot of things. It's about a lot of people, and it's about a lot of people in the preparedness community who have relied on that steel-cased ammo for years now to feed their excellently made, well-serviced, and great track record firearms like SKSs, AKs, and even most of the guns. So I just wanted to make sure to touch base on that because this is the problem. A lot of people kind of don't know about a lot of this stuff because they're kind of new to the game. So for some people, losing access to this ammunition might not be a big deal because, well, you're an idiot if you're not just running an AR-15 or, well, who cares? I mean, 9mm and a 12 gauge is all you need. But it's about the people who did what they were supposed to do a long time ago and are now no longer able to acquire more of what they need. Okay. Sorry, just trying to put it out there. Okay. So, Prepper Now, thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate it. I think I saw maybe Rip Curl joined us, because if so, good to see you. Okay, so, all right. Constitutional Carpenter, this is important. Will SHTF Marauders really dress like 80s psychobilly guys? I hope so. And if not, maybe that's what we need to do. Because honestly, I need to know who's on my team and who's not. And there's no better way to do that than to dress up like 80s psychobilly guys. So we should probably vote on that right now. And I will make a poll right now so I can see what you guys' thoughts are. Okay. And you know what? This is important stuff. And I'm sorry if you're not really sure about whether or not, this is actually relative to what we're talking about, but I guarantee you it is. Okay. So you guys tell me what you think. Anyhow, Rip Curl, good to see you. Stay survived. If they don't, I'm not participating. This is what I'm trying to say. Look, it would be great to have a situation where everybody dressed up in a certain way so we knew exactly who was who, right? Hey, I'm a Marauder, so I've got a sleeveless T-shirt and a bandana, and, I am running around on a motorcycle with spikes on it. Great. Thanks for letting me know from 8 miles away. Now I know what to expect. And, hey, I'm a prepper, so I've got a beard, and I like to wear, safari shirts and a backpack everywhere I go with long socks and sandals. Don't do that. Do not do that. Anyway, but what I'm trying to say is, wouldn't that be nice? Of course, it will not be that way, no matter what. And in a good sense, I want you guys to keep in mind, this is something that I actually just saw in that Jericho show you guys told me to watch, which I had a good time with. I really did. But there will be people wearing things that aren't theirs. And that is definitely something that we need to be aware of. And that is definitely Marauder tactics, to go ahead and wear maybe a uniform of some kind, right? Maybe an EMT uniform and they're in an ambulance, or maybe a police uniform and they're in a SWAT vehicle. Who knows? Just keep in mind that not everybody you see at SHTF is going to be what their uniform says they are. Just letting you know. Okay, so Benchmade Knife Company. I'm confused by this. Is anyone else confused by this? Anyway, I'm going to keep going. Okay. Let's see. Maybe that's an example of somebody in a uniform that's not theirs. Let's find out. Benchmade, if this is really you, let us know, please, because otherwise I'm confused. Okay. Sarah Pack says, trust no one. Exactly. And that's why you have to form your communities and your mags now. Get involved with your network. Know who it is that you're relying on, who's in your circle, and then still hold back a little bit of trust no matter what, because you never know for sure how people will react to the hardships and the mental capacity required for an SHTF scenario. and not everybody's going to be able to have what it takes. And they might have great things to say and great things to put into what it is you're doing in the sense of skills they might bring to the table. But when that time comes, will they be able to take it or will they break? These are things that you have to keep in mind. So don't fully trust anybody, no matter what, because it could be the difference of safety for you and your immediate family. And those are the only people you should fully trust. You know, honestly, it's the people you live with in your house that you care about. Okay, so, all right. Okay, a truck Campbell. I've seen this a couple times now. You can make custom pellet loads with the .177 Crossman. I think it's important if you can't get certain types. Thank you for letting us know about that. And yes, air rifle, definitely a good thing to have for SHTF. That's another video I had to remove from back in the day because apparently what I was doing was unsafe because I was shooting an air rifle in my backyard. Anyway, these are things that we're learning, okay? Okay, so you guys understand. It's not just about the Russian ammo. It's about what this is for. And what it's for is to take us out of the equation when it comes to being able to acquire affordable and accessible ammunition that we can easily... I'm trying to avoid this word because I don't want anyone to get upset. That we can have a lot of put away. There you go. Best way to say it without saying it. And that is a problem for the people who are worried and concerned. And obviously, this is an issue. Now, I do want you guys to understand that is an AK a great thing to have? Yes. Is an AK the best thing to have? That's up to you. Is there someone willing to make a video that literally says that something is the best? I hope so. Because honestly, at some point, just tell me, all right? I'm sick of all the crap of it's your preference or what fits you or how does your hand feel or what's the best that, you know, feels when you go to the range with it. Rent 27 different firearms and try them all, and whichever one feels the best. Stop. Tell me what it is. Go in the comments right now. I mean it. Like the exact platform, model, everything. Let's go. Overall best, you know, budget in mind, capacity of, you know, what it's capable of and everything, all that stuff. Do it, because honestly, somebody should just do it and stop worrying about, well, no one's going to agree because everybody's got opinions. Great. That's what this is for. But it's okay to just come out and tell somebody straight up what the best is. And I feel like a lot of people have a hard time with that. And, you know, I've had some people tell me some great things like CZ Bren 2. Is it? Gosh, I wish you guys would just tell me already. Okay. So, oh my God. Yes. So the bomb dog, that comment actually got held, but I caught it. And I was like, yeah, I gotta show that because, you know, but you won't be caught. You're right. You won't. All right. So, and by the way, this poll is the best. So 51% says we dress as Marauders. 49% says otherwise. Oh, it's 50-50 now. Basically, this is like politics in America. So what I'm seeing here is that do what you will, because basically, if we follow this poll, everyone will be dressed as Marauders, and that'll be a little bit difficult to navigate. Okay, so that's why you guys are awesome. All right, so I am excited to see all this stuff in the comments because I just, you know, made so many people mad or probably changed a lot of people's opinions or made a lot of arguments occur. But what I am now realizing is that nobody is putting, you know, AK in the chat. And I wonder if that's because of this new ammo ban or if that's because you really feel that way. Either way, that's what I'm trying to say is that, you know, we have options. And it's not always about, oh, I need that one because it's the best for this. Sometimes it's just about because we want it, right? And, you know, yeah, you might, you know, drive a Honda Civic because it makes the most sense. That doesn't mean you don't want, you know, a Maserati. It just means that the Civic is the best for what you need and it's practical. It shouldn't mean that you can't have a Maserati just because someone else decided that they're no longer allowed to, you know, build them. And that is exactly the same scenario, except for with something people tend to really not like for some reason. Okay. So, Dr. Detroit, Ma Deuce. Now that's hard to argue with. Thank you for bringing it to the forefront. I have something to, you know, look forward to and try to invest in now in the future. Okay. Mark 18, best CQB. Might be true. I'm not going to argue with you on that. That's not a bad idea. Okay. And let's see. Nerf Surefire Blaster. Roger Dodger. My kind of people. All right. So what I'm saying here is that this community is targeted no matter what. And we're going to keep seeing stuff like this happen. We got to do what we can. We got to stay prepared. We got to do our part. And what I mean by that is, get involved. I don't know if you guys are into things like, GOA or the FPC or any of that stuff, but do what you can. Am I a NRA Life member? Yeah. Do I think that they're doing everything in their power to do what they can to stop some of this stuff from happening? And do I think that they spend all their money wisely and put it towards the actual initiatives that they want to be a part of? I don't necessarily believe so. And I think if we had a change of management and put people in there that had the passion for firearms, that some of the people who are their biggest, complainants are, or the passion that they have, I think that there could be some change there. So do I think it's an organization worth leaving? No. Do I think it's an organization that needs a lot of repair? Yes. And do I think that there's other organizations out there that we should look at and try to support? Yes. So GOA, FPC, those are organizations that we should take a look at. Even the USCCA is starting to, make moves and make ripples. And I think that obviously on a local level, getting involved with your sheriff's department and talking to your county commissioners and trying to establish 2A sanctuaries and stuff like that is definitely a good way to go as well. And I know recently that 20 states attorneys generals, that's definitely not how you say it, 20 attorney generals from 20 different states signed onto a letter basically saying that they will not comply with White House gun control executive orders. Okay. And that is a good sign. However, it's still only 20. We need definitely a majority of states to feel that way. We need to start pushing more. Yes, North Dakota was on that list. So there you go. Another plus point for North Dakota. Florida was also on that list, my home state. And one thing I will say about Florida that is also awesome is that they allowed for, people on certain social media platforms to be able to legally protect themselves if they are censored and stuff like that. So there's a lot going on that's in our favor, but we need to keep pushing for it. We need to keep doing what we can to keep that ball rolling because people fall off easily when things get comfortable again. And we're not going to be comfortable for a long time. And this ammunition ban should definitely prove that point to you. Okay. Let's see. Super chats. And I'm not only answering the super chats, guys. I'm just curious as to what's going on here. Okay. And, gosh, there's so many good chats in here after all this weird conversation we just had. Okay. So Benchmade Knife Company says, we always supported and continue to support the Second Amendment. Sometimes we have to give money to politicians to help push forward knife agenda items. We always have been pro 2A company. Okay. So thanks for sharing that. Is this the real Benchmade Knife Company? If so, cool. Thanks for being here and trying to put that point out there for everybody. Glock 19 M&P Sport 2, you can only have one Glock 19. And that's just because I have a Glock 19, and I have nothing bad to say about the Smith & Wesson M&P Sport 2, but I will say the Glock 19 has a lot more aftermarket support and has a longer track record. So to me, that's just why. You might like the trigger on the M&P better. You might like the grip angle on the M&P better. You might like those things better. But at the end of the day, at least for my purposes of being prepared and worrying about relying on certain tools for self-defense and survival and, taking care of my family, I'm just going to go with the more practical and more tested option. And unfortunately, that's the Glock 19. And when I say unfortunately, I mean unfortunately, because there's a lot of other firearms out there that I wish I could just have instead, that I literally had to eat the crow and get a Glock because I just felt like I was being stubborn rather than realistic. Does that make sense? Because I'd love to have a SIG P226, or a CZ75, but I have a Glock 19. Okay, so, and Tank Ace, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Let's see. Anna Khalees says, Magic Prepper and Patriot Nurse. I don't know what we're talking about, but I'm cool with that. And look, I don't get on board with every single other prepper channel's concepts. I'm not sold on everybody's opinions or suggestions or equipment or whatever else it may be. And that's perfectly all right and actually better, because what the whole point is for different opinions and perspectives and different people's, ideas to be put out there so that you can find what works best for you. and like what works best for city prepping isn't what works best for me per se. Although the information he puts out, I find to be very useful and valuable in many ways, even if it doesn't apply to my situation. And that's the same that goes for every other channel out there. Alaska Prepper, Bear Independent, it doesn't matter who it is. You might hate somebody, you might love somebody, but take the information that's out there and then digest it and then just do what you will with it. And that's the whole point. Not everybody's going to be right all the time. I'm wrong sometimes. I'll try to admit it the best I can when I am. And, even when that guy was mad at me for telling him about rotten wood or whatever he said I did, I still apologized, even though it never happened, because I just didn't want this guy to be so upset. I felt so bad for the guy. And I just felt like, man, maybe that one time I talked about rain and then 2 minutes later I talked about wood. And then, 2 videos later I talked about houses. Maybe he put the 3 together and thought that I tried to insinuate rotten wood. I don't know. So that's where we're at, okay? I went old school with a Walther P99. I love it. Nick Abel. Walther is legit, okay? I don't know if I can ever get used to paddle-style magazine releases, though. I'm still not sure on that, okay? Because I have a Walther, actually, and I like HKs, but I just don't know. But I do like that they're ambidextrous, so there's that. Okay. Truck Campbell, can you talk about the thing being approved? Truck Campbell, here's what I'm going to say about it, okay? And we said it a little bit earlier, but a big thing is just that a lot of decisions are going to have to be made now, and a lot of companies and a lot of entities in general were waiting for this information in order to initiate whatever it is they want to initiate. And a lot of people are going to have to make some probably hard decisions here in the future. And for a lot of people, you might think, well, this shouldn't be a hard decision, right? But it is. It is. And, I would never want to be put in a position where I have to choose my livelihood over my, freedom of choice or anything like that. So for a lot of people, I feel bad that a lot of people are in that situation right now. And I think that we're going to see a lot of strange fallout because of this whole situation. In the grand scheme of things, is the approval a good thing in the sense of trying to, justify things? So I have to leave that hanging because, if I say too much, we're going to have a problem here. Let's see. Okay. Sucks to have a 74 right now. Stuart Britt. Yes, it does. It sure does. Okay. And then, guys, we're at an hour and 36 minutes, which means a couple things. One, you're still here for some reason, and I appreciate that about you. And I actually like hanging out with you guys here in the chat and talking about this stuff way more than it might look. And the other thing that it means is that I can talk for way too long when it's just me. And that's concerning because I'm pretty sure in an SHTF scenario, I will be talking to myself at some point. And maybe I'll be that guy who loses it a little bit and I'll sit in front of my computer monitor and turn my camera on and just talk to you guys, but you won't actually be there, but it'll make me feel better. We'll see. Okay. Oh, man. And hopefully my sense of humor gets through and instead of everybody realizing that they're listening to some crazy person talk. Let's see here. Okay. Boop, 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 boop. All right. ML. I'm so ready to move out of the state if I have to, and I'm probably going to have to. Let us know what state you're in and where you're moving to, because here we are. You know what I mean? Let's see. Rip Curl says, this band sucks because I love shooting my 7.62 by 25 Tokarev. And exactly, man. And this is terrible for a lot of those reasons, okay? A lot of people are okay with things like this. You don't realize how many FUDs are out there in the sense of, people who don't care like that. They don't even know this is happening. And like, if you told them it's happening, they'd be like, well, I don't care. I don't have an AK-47. Who cares? Or, well, screw that Russian ammo. We don't want Russian stuff anyway. That's the FUD mentality that we have to watch out for. A lot of that's going to happen, okay? So I feel you, Rip Curl. And one of the things that I find to be concerning or at least, just crappy overall is that there's been kind of a rise in popularity of the 9x39, right? And that's been kind of like coming into the scene. And then this suddenly just happens. And it's like, oh. So, yeah, a lot of stuff's going on here. Brian Williams, you think this is the beginning of the AR ban? Well, that's already started in many, many, many ways. And I think we can see things happening right now. Okay, so we already know 80% 3D print, all that stuff's being targeted. We also saw what happened with the FRT-15, right? And we know that that is another thing that they're utilizing. So they're going to, here's the thing that worries me about that whole thing. And I think I have a buddy who I will have on the show at some point to talk about these things, but I just didn't get a chance to schedule him tonight. I know he would have been great to have here. But Carver Upgood, yes, I will be the radio DJ, just like in the Fallout video game series. You can listen to me talk about whatever weird songs I'm going to play. Okay, so, but one of the things that's going to be a problem here is that they're going to utilize things like this FRT-15 situation, right? And the bump stocks and all the other stuff that they want to regulate and get rid of. They're going to use that as a justification for why you have to get rid of AR-15s in general. Because look, we tried to regulate the things that make them dangerous. We tried to regulate the things that make them a problem. We tried to regulate the things that, were causing all the issues. But, those things just can't be regulated. So the only real way to do this is to actually get rid of the whole thing. And that is exactly why I think a lot of these steps are being taken, because they know that in court and through, different verification processes that a lot of these things like the FRT-15 are not going to be actually able to be labeled the way that they're being labeled right now under the NFA. And once that happens enough times, then they're going to come back and say, well, we tried, guys, and we couldn't do it. So there's only one other thing to do, and it's because of these things that we couldn't get rid of that are actually the problem. I wouldn't doubt if we see something like that happen once all these things go through the process and are, allowed to continue to be sold because they don't actually fall under those labelings. Okay. Glock. All right, who's doing this? So here's something I want you guys to know. I have been accused of being a lot of things. Illuminati, shill, government agent, lots of things. Reptile. But one of the things that hasn't ever happened before is that companies like Benchmade and Glock showed up randomly in the chat and gave me money. So I am confused a little bit. I feel like I'm getting one of those things where if they'll send me a Glock if I give them 10 grand to get out of jail in the middle of Nigeria or something. So I just validate, right? Trust but verify. If you guys are really here, let me know, because I love Glock, but I just have a hard time accepting any of this. So let's see. Howard Lucan says I look like a dweeb to him, which I totally get. I totally get. I get it, man. Okay, so let's see. John Wow for you, Texas native. Thank you so much. And guys, at the end of the day, always, always, always prioritize your preparedness over super chats or anything like that. That $5 if you'd rather go out and get some more batteries, if you want to get a little bit more food or whatever it might be, just do it. Do what's best for you first. Never worry about me per se. You guys just watching and supporting this channel and being here is plenty and even more than I can ask for. And in fact, I really am often blown away from the support here, guys. I really am. And like I said, I want you guys to be involved. That's why this Red Dawn painting is coming here soon, so I can get rid of this Magic Prepper gun mat over here. So that way, you guys decided on that. I gave you options, and I'm stoked about that kind of stuff. And I want to do more of that. That's why I got the 6-hour 716i, and we're going to keep doing those things because you guys helping me through this process and giving me your opinion and your advice and your suggestions is actually extremely valuable to me, because I have my knowledge base, I have my level of skill, and I have my thought process and opinions on a lot of things. But all of you do too. And I learned from you as well. It's not just what I have to say. So honestly, thank you for that. And thanks for helping direct me in the right direction once in a while. Even if it becomes something as silly as a wall decor item or something like that. But it's just because I want you guys to know I appreciate you and I appreciate your opinions and I appreciate your feedback. And if you're willing to at least give me some direction on what you'd rather see, then that helps me. Okay. So let's see. Got some more stuff going on here in the chat. And look, I think we're doing great here. Look, I don't usually run a 2-hour live stream, but I'm having a good time. And I also feel like this is important information that we're discussing. And it's something that people are concerned about and worked up about for good reason, because there's more of this that can happen. There's more to the picture. We can do more of these things to ourselves if we allow it to happen. And we're going to see some more of this happen. It's guaranteed. It's not going to stop here. And we're going to see the ATF go do all the things they're going to do. We're going to see the AFT do all the things that they're going to do. And then we're going to see the executive branch do a lot of the stuff that they do, or nothing. One of the two, whichever one. But either way, it seems that either path is detrimental at this point. So Nick Abel, Fallout, shout out. Can't go wrong. Okay, look, if you got to have some entertainment in your life. It doesn't matter how much prepping you want to do, how worried you are about what's going on in the world, any of that stuff. Make sure you take care of your head, okay? Right? So you want to make sure you enjoy yourself from time to time. So entertainment is perfectly fine. Some people will preach to you and say, you don't have time for movies or video games or TV. It's prep, or else, you're not going to make it. And I disagree with that because I think mental stability is extremely important, and taking yourself out of that stress every so often to enjoy yourself is a huge part of being able to keep going and not burn out, in the sense that a lot of people will, because they've pushed so hard. And we're seeing a lot of that, I think, right now, even, to be honest with you. There's a lot of overwhelming feeling going on, right? Like with everything with Afghanistan and now these gun control measures, everything that's just happening lately, it's a lot for people to absorb and take in. So I think a lot of people are struggling with moving forward. You know what I mean? Oh my God. Okay. Oh God. You know what's funny? Like a year ago, I would have been like, man, Smith & Wesson, that's crazy. And now I'm super skeptical, Smith & Wesson. What? So you guys, you do the detective work for me in the chat. 'Cause I don't know what's really happening here. I'm expecting it to be trolls. But at the same time, you tell me what's happening. I want your opinion, because listen, I'm just going to check. I'm just going to hang it out, guys. People are saying they're bots and all that kind of stuff. I hope so. You know what I mean? Because there's money bots now that just go around giving you money. Okay. That's an interesting turn of events. Sure. Okay. So let's see. Okay. Rip Curl. Do you think we'll see Wolf, Tula, and others moving their ammo to another country, repackaging, or even moving plants? One of the issues is that a lot of these different manufacturers, it's a huge operation and a huge setup and a huge cost to relocate. So the thought process, I'm sure, there is to create a situation that's too expensive to work around, basically, right? Especially with some of these old factories that are still producing ammo that were still around for probably the last 100 years, right? So basically what I expect is to see certain American manufacturers trying to fill the gap, right? Like Winchester Forged and all that kind of stuff, okay? But there's just not enough time and not enough resources to actually get ahead of this, right? It happened very quickly. Well, we knew this was going to happen 5 months ago, but it happened quickly in the sense that one day it just happened, right? And we're all like, ah. So I don't expect those companies to actually be able to work around it super well. I do expect American companies to try their best, but I do think that we're going to see a lot of gaps in the meantime. And those gaps are going to be very difficult. And a lot of Americans, are going to abandon ship when it comes to AKs and SKSs and everything else. And that's going to cause the rest of the country that already is on the AR boat and everything else related to that to have a hard time. And, look, I'm an M1A and an AR-10 guy, and I'm still concerned because 308 is still going to be affected by this as well. I mean, Wolf made a steel case 308 that was, decent ammo as long as your platform accepted it. And that's still that much less 308 on the shelf. Not to mention the fact that a lot of people that like 7.62, right? So if you have an AK-47, 7.62 by 39, and you're like, crap, I got to switch. But I've got all this stuff that's already ready for 7.62. Maybe I'll switch to 308 because at least I can still utilize all of my cleaning supplies and everything else related to the 7.62 diameter and just, move over to that. So there's that as well that we should be concerned about. Even the people who reload, if you're walking 7.62 bullets, I mean, you can reload that into a 308 cartridge and keep moving forward. So there's a lot of that I'm concerned about as well for those same reasons. Okay. So that's just my thought process. Okay. Dusty Data says Remington went bankrupt because of the quality. And I mean, yeah, and we all know that. I mean, back in the day, I actually had to have one of those trigger situations resolved for my Remington 700 because it was on the safe, right? And the thing about that whole situation was it was glue. It was like a piece of glue that caused the whole problem. And so, yeah, when your QC is so bad that like glue is ruining your firearms, like that's a problem. Not to mention, like, I don't really want glue to be the deciding factor on whether or not my firearm is going to function properly. So, God. I hope you guys are enjoying this as much as I am, because one of the theories I saw here in the thread, which I'm cool with, is that these corporation donors that are coming into the chat are setups, so that way later people can go back and say, well, Magic Forever's a shill. Look at all this money he took from these companies. So so thank you for that. All right. This is really weird, right? But there's just somebody making these accounts, I assume, and hopefully it's like my friend screwing with me or something. I don't know. And if not, then that's even weirder. So anyhow, anyway, that we're almost at the hour. I got 10 minutes left. I said hour, I meant 2. Let's wrap this up, right? But we have 10 minutes to finish the chat. So in the next 10 minutes, let's talk. Tell me what it is you guys are concerned about with this ammo ban. Tell me what it is that you want to talk about. Tell me what it is that you think we're heading towards when it comes to this whole thing. Because obviously, we're going other places. And it's not places I want to go. But it's places that we'll go together, because we're all going to be here. And we're going to talk about it. And we're going to keep preparing the best we can. Okay? All right. So, okay. Boop, boop, boop. Rip Curl. Have the SIG 716 in 308. Is the 769 similar? I'm not sure. I believe, is the 769 the one that's built off the 556 platform? I'm not sure, Rip Curl, right off the top of my head. But I don't want to answer that with something that I'm not sure about, okay? Chief says Afghanistan is a distraction, okay? There might be some validity there. I don't know. But it does seem like it was fumbled so horribly and executed so badly that it almost, could be that, just because what other justification is it to be handled so terribly? Okay, let's see. Do you have a dirt bike for prepping or bug out purposes? A truck camel? No, I don't. So here's the thing. I wouldn't mind getting like a side-by-side or something like that. But what I will say is that certain vehicles, especially like bikes of any kind, really, the biggest problem with that, and this is an issue, is just because I've got a family. And there's not going to be many situations where I'm going to be willing to jump on a motorcycle and go do something off on my own and leave my family behind. You know what I mean? So those are the things that I try to consider when it comes to purchasing vehicles and stuff like that. Are there situations that might arise where you might have to leave on your own? Of course there are. But is that investment worth it for something that would be a very rare possibility? I don't know. So that's just my thought process there, okay? All right, Nick from Pennsylvania. Thank you for clearing it up. Although that was a good time. And, I had fun. Hopefully everybody else had fun with it. Thanks for letting us know. But hilarious, man. I had a good time with that, because even with the Benchmade, I was like, hold up, because at the end of the day, we all know that they don't have a lot of big fans anymore, do they? So let's see here. Okay. Somebody was bringing something in here real quick. JM at the Nut House. Subscribed when you started a couple years ago. You haven't changed much. Still a decent guy with a level-headed info. Thanks. And honestly, Nick, or JM, sorry, JM, back then, I literally, man, a lot of the older stuff and the old content is experimental, right? And when I say that, I don't mean like, let's just see what happens. I mean, back when you first start a YouTube channel, you're literally just throwing stuff out there to see what is good or what isn't, or what you should or shouldn't be doing, or, what resonates or what people like prefer. A lot of what I did back then was like yelling, and it wasn't like on purpose. It was just that I was very passionate about what I was talking about. So a lot of what I was saying was like this has happened right now. I'm freaking out about it. And I was trying to like get people's attention. But what I was doing was pushing people away, because they would click on the video and be like, geez, all right, bro, I don't want to get yelled at. And they'd leave. So, you learn a lot in that process. So if you're still here from that time, I appreciate it because you stuck through me with a lot of weird stuff that I was just trying to figure out. And now I've figured out quite a bit. Do I feel like I could do more production value stuff and add more to my video content? Like I do. But does that take away from what I do? I don't know, because it seems like everybody kind of enjoys just the sitting at the workbench having a conversation stuff. And I don't know if I want to go the route of like, tons of B-roll footage and tons of other stuff. Because I don't know if that isn't what you guys want. You know what I mean? So, feel free to always give me feedback too if there's stuff like, I know in the bug out vehicle video, a lot of people said, drop the music, man, it's too much. And at the end of the day, I'm like, you know what? It's too much music because enough people chimed in, and I was like, all right, good to know. So that's actually how I get better and how I give you guys like better stuff. You know what I mean? So let me know, okay? All right. How's my archery skills? 2326TX asks, and could be better. I'll tell you that much. Can I handle a bow? Yes. Could I be better at it? I definitely could. And right now, I actually don't even have a compound bow. So I am working towards acquiring one. We have other bows, recurve and long bows, but we don't have a compound in the house right this second. So I'm trying to invest in a nice one down the road here and get out and probably do some archery hunting. So archery season is a little bit easier to get into out here because the rifle season for deer requires like a lottery. So, archery is kind of where it's at in many ways. Let's see. Gray Man wants to know if there's a certain crossbow anyone can recommend. So if you can recommend a crossbow, please do in the chat. Let him know what you think is a good option because honestly, there's a lot of choices out there. And like, if I go to a firearms store with somebody, I can walk you through everything and like help you make a really good decision. And I'm pretty confident about that. I've been the wingman to a lot of first-time gun buyers many, many, many times. And I never put my own bias in there, just information that I have that I can at least relay and help walk them through some of the, more uncomfortable parts of handling a firearm for maybe the first time, or at least getting comfortable in front of other people with it. But when you're talking about crossbows and archery and stuff like that, like I don't know anything. I'm not going to give you guys any kind of inclination that I do. Can I handle a bow and have I shot a bow more than once? Yes. And I did, got my archery merit badge in Boy Scouts and all that good stuff. I fired compound bows. Fired. That's a word, I guess. But you know what I mean? I have definitely done my share. I just don't want to ever claim to know much about it until I do, which hopefully at some point I will. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. And then, Ammo Wizard says he should have did it from Wolf or Tula in Russian. That would have been funny as hell. I agree. And but then I would have been flagged, right? Because then I would have been full of collusion. And we don't want to do that because it could be like a year of people telling other people about me being in collusion at that point. Let's see. Sundance Kid 64. Could you make a video discussion to be able to do a reaction video on the 1980s Yuri Bezmenov interview? Sorry, hard to say sometimes. Look, yes, it's been brought to my attention multiple times, and the video's there. Digest it. I suggest checking it out, and I think the warning signs are already out there. But if you guys really do want to see a video like that, I think it's something I can touch base on at least and kind of give you some points on, because that's one of the things I try to do. I like you guys. A video will come out tomorrow night, and you guys will say, here we go, another magic video about some crap, I guess, But the whole point is that I take lots of information and I bullet point it into digestible little morsels. That's the best way I can explain it, to try to give you guys something to take from the topic that's easy to understand, and then just like apply it to whatever it is that it might affect you with. And yes, there's tons and tons of details behind a lot of the stuff that we discussed here. But if I go through in every video, do a dissertation about the Russian ammunition ban, and then start talking in different languages about the different concepts and reasons behind all the different statutes and stuff that allow for this stuff to happen, everything gets lost in the fold, and none of the actual message gets out there, and then we just start sounding like pretentious a-holes. So my whole deal here is just to kind of let you know the bare basics of what's going on and give you the reasons as to why it's happening and why you should be aware of it, and then let you do with what you will after the fact. So hopefully that works for you guys. If you ever feel like I need to give you more details or links to more of the source information and stuff like that, you can always ask. And there is a reason why I don't always link source information. One of the reasons is that links that take you off of this platform negatively affect the overall performance of content. And when I'm saying that, it's not because I don't want you to have the information. What I'm saying is that the videos will not reach a certain size audience and will not get the message out further, because if those links send a lot of people away from YouTube, YouTube will literally stop sending people this video because they don't want you to leave the platform. Okay, so that's one of the reasons, and it's just part of the little game that you have to play over here. But one of the other reasons is that I don't think spoon feeding people details and information is the best way to do things. I want you guys to hear what I have to say, and I want you to reference check me. I want you to, go and check and say, well, is he just full of crap or what? And if I am, I want you to come back and tell me. But I guarantee you I do my due diligence before putting out information. So what I try to do is, give you the info so that you can then do what you need to do in the sense of verifying its validity or, acting on it in the sense of being better prepared. So that's why I don't always link source information. But I thought I would just share that with you guys because a lot of people do ask about it. And at many times I do because I find it important. Like on my last video when I talked about how we're the new enemy, I wanted you guys to see those articles specifically, not just try to find stuff that might show up besides that information, okay? So I wanted you to actually read the exact source material. But in other videos where we're just going to talk, like even tomorrow's video, a lot of the information I'll give you is from source materials that are easily found, but I want you guys to do the work if it's something you're worried about verifying, or if you're going to just take the information and then use it to be better prepared afterward. At least you have a head start. You'll get on it before something else occurs, okay? I thought that was just a way to say it. I don't know. Wanted you guys to be aware. I try to share with you guys some of the stuff that goes in to actually doing all this too once in a while, instead of just talking about the exact topics at hand, because I think it's important for you to understand where I'm coming from and why I do the things that I do. Okay. And Vladimir Putin just donated to the channel, so I am now officially red flagged, I'm sure. Okay. All right. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. We're at 2 hours. I think it's about time. Okay. And I really, really appreciate you guys hanging with me. And I really wanted to make sure you understood why this Russian ammo ban was important. Not just because you can't get 7.62 by 39 anymore. It's because of the ripple effect it's going to have on every single other type of ammunition, as well as where they're going to take this whole thing next. Okay. And I will say, there's one more thing that came through, and the Mr. ACD. Okay. Or if I said that wrong, I apologize. But I mean, that makes sense. Do you ever foresee another platform rising up so that you can be more candid and not have to worry about the strikes? The answer to that's probably not. And the reason I say that is because monopolies within the tech space have become the norm, and things that become popular are bought out or shut down, as we saw with platforms like Parler, right? So unfortunately, I think we're in a situation where even if a great platform gets put together with free speech and everything related to it, and all the stuff that everybody wants to have on this platform, if it gets popular to a certain point, it'll be bought, and then once it's bought, it'll be changed, and then that will be the demise of it. And here, this is the most established platform that has the largest reach and the largest community, which means, yes, I have to work around some crap once in a while, but at the same time, I get to interact with all of you here in one place, which is impossible on any of the other platforms at this time. So unfortunately, that's just how I see it at this point. And until something else actually comes along and surpasses YouTube, I won't assume that it's going to happen, and it just probably won't. Just to be honest with you guys, okay. But I do want to tell you something. I do want you guys to be aware of something right before we leave, okay? Because now that we're talking about this, listen. This platform is gigantic, insanely gigantic. And one thing I will say is that I've talked to other creators and people on the inside who are trying their best to make this platform more acceptable for everybody. And I know it's hard to believe, and I know it seems like crap, but honestly, there are people working on that, because the people who run these platforms don't know a lot of things, especially when it comes to stuff that we know a lot about, aka stuff like the Second Amendment and firearms and stuff like that. So a lot of what they do is based on lack of information and lack of implementation. When they can't implement something because they have 17,000 employees that are all tasked with flagging certain content for certain reasons and then trusting every, kid that they hire to just make a good decision and hoping that everybody's on the same page of exactly what they think should be flagged or not flagged is a big part of the problem. So there are people right now working on trying to fix those issues. And in fact, some of the team at YouTube are actually engaged in finding better ways to include the firearms community here on the platform and finding better, ways to put out guidelines that gives a more direct and clear message as to what is or isn't allowed. So, there is some improvement on the way, it seems, but who knows what it will really look like at the end of the day. The one thing I think we can all agree on, though, is that the majority of people in Silicon Valley who work at these companies have no idea what the difference of 762 by 39 is compared to 556 by 45. They have no idea. They have zero clue as to what that means. So that's the people who are in charge of regulating the stuff that we put on this platform. And that's not necessarily the fault of the platform, but now at least some people there are actually working with some of these people to give them that information and that basic education that they need in order to make better decisions in the sense of what they can or can't allow. So, that's me being as positive as I possibly can be about everything that's going on. And I thought you guys should know that, okay? Stephen Petrowski, I do not dye my hair. I swear to God, I don't dye my hair. It's just turning white. And you know what? Some people might say that makes me a wizard, and I'm okay with it, okay? So, want you guys to know, I really appreciate every single one of you. I really want everybody here to know that don't throw away your AKs. Don't get rid of your SKS. Do not use this as a justification to drop all your Russian stuff, because at the end of the day, it's great stuff. There's zero problem with having an AK or an SKS as your primary selection, okay? Make sure you have the ammo you need, and yeah, you might want to have a secondary option in order to keep things fed for the long term if things get worse here. But at the end of the day, the track record of reliability of the AK is hard to beat, and it might be worth jumping through some hurdles for if you want to make sure to maintain that, okay? So, Russian ammo ban. Don't do what they want you to do, aka buy tons of ammo at crazy prices, create a huge shortage, eliminate the possibility for a lot of new gun owners to jump into the community, and cause yourself a problem by switching over to a different caliber that is going to be harder and harder to acquire due to the fact that so many people are going to do that. Please don't do those things. Do what's smart. Have the ammo you need, spend money wisely, and don't panic buy if you don't have to. When I was telling everybody to buy ammo more than a year ago, it's because it was still accessible and affordable in that moment. And a lot of people blame me for the ammo shortage, which, wow, what a huge compliment for me to be so influential to cause an ammo shortage like this one. But what I'm trying to say is that right now I'm not suggesting that same thing anymore because of where we are and because I do not think it's wise to spend all of your money on just ammo. If you have some already, be smart about it. If you have none, go get some. But don't buy so much that you go broke over the ammunition that you can't afford to continue your preps that are also very important in the sense of food, water, shelter, power, all those things. So be smart. Don't throw your AKs away because that's what makes you a marauder, and that's why I love you. And we all have to be better at being marauders. So to wrap this up, without anything else to say about the Russian import ammunition ban, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.